It gets a little old listening to these politicians play their usual games about, oh, healthcare costs too much. What are we going to do to get these insurance costs down? People can't afford the insurance. What the hell's going wrong? We're going to campaign on this so everyone thinks we're going to do something about it. And nothing ever gets done unless it gets worse. We got to think about this. The only reason insurance costs so damn much is because every doctor, every hospital is robbing us blind. There is no reason these medical services cost what they do. The only factor that helps drive them up is the fact that we got so many dirtbag ambulance chaser lawyers out there and so many people that live to litigate. I knew a doctor, she'd just gotten out of college, right? She just began her first job as a licensed doctor. It was costing her $5,000 a month for malpractice insurance. 60 grand a year, and she didn't even have any patients yet. She had to have that before she could even start. So yeah, that's part of the problem. That's one of the reasons the cost is so high. They got to cover that. But let's be honest, the entire system is structured to feed itself and to squeeze the last possible dime out of every consumer, every unfortunate patient that has to deal with these sharks. Because they are sharks. You know, there was a time doctors used to get into the industry because they wanted to cure people. They wanted to help. They wanted to make a difference. The doctors made house calls day and night. They would get out there whenever they were needed. They charged you what you could afford to pay. They would take chickens and jars of canned vegetables in exchange. They were there to serve, not to get rich. Their wealthier customers, that's who they lived off of. They charged them. People traded goods and services to doctors. They worked out deals because the doctors then were in it because they wanted to help people. They wanted to cure people. They had compassion. They cared about the people. What's their motivation now? Along the way, it became lucrative to the point where it became a path to riches, or at least comfortable wealth. And when you make that change, you start attracting a different kind of person to the industry. Instead of just attracting the people that really care and want to help others, then you start getting the people that have made a financial decision that that's probably their best path. Their motivation of just curing and helping people isn't there anymore. When it becomes a pathway to riches, then they start squeezing every damn dime out of it. And one of the problems we've got with trying to fix any of this is so many of our politicians are lawyers, and the doctors and the lawyers are thick together. But the truth is, we're being overcharged for all of this. I don't care what anybody says. I've heard every excuse in the book. We are being robbed. The hospitals and the doctors are both doing it. We're going to talk about this because there's a reason we named this channel What They Don't Say. This isn't being said, and it needs to be said. The insurance cost isn't the problem. The cost of the damn bills that the insurance has to cover is the problem. Of course, insurance rates are high. They're unaffordable because they're charging us $25 a pop for over-the-counter pills. Then they charge you another $25 for a nurse that's already on duty to hand it to you. They call it an administering fee. They administer it when they lay it in that. They take that little cup and set it on that little table over your bed. There's a charge for that. These people are already on staff. They have figured out a way to overcharge and pad bills at every step of the way. It costs 3 or 4 times what it should to go on a damn hospital. You're paying more for a hospital room than a 5-star hotel because they know people don't pay it directly. It goes through the insurance company, and the people just put up with it. They know people don't challenge it. It needs to be challenged. They have figured out a way to rip us out the minute we walk in the first door of the process. I remember when I was a kid, I got some stitches. I don't know, I was in like first grade, and I got some stitches, and I remember my dad going in and signing a check, giving it to him after they stitched me up. Those days are gone. But back then, that's all you did. You just go in and you get fixed. Now they've got to run you through all of their expert friends. The system feeds itself, and it's all constructed deliberately. For example, a few years ago, I crushed a foot. I had an accident with some firewood. I got a foot just crushed. It had like 14 breaks in it. It was in bad shape. I went ahead and wrote it out that night, and the next day I had to go into the doctor. So I go up to the hospital and I told him, hey, I need an x-ray. Get me up there. So look at this foot, twice as big as it's supposed to be. I need an x-ray. And they're like, oh, yeah, you need an x-ray. I'm like, well, thank you. Then they said, all right, who referred you? It's like, I didn't need anybody to refer me. My foot is twice as big as it's supposed to be. It hurts like hell. I need an x-ray. And no, I couldn't do it without a referral. Well, they didn't have a doctor there that could refer me, so I had to drive a mile across town, make an appointment, and go in and see this other doctor. It was an emergency appointment. I only had to wait like an hour and a half. Then the doctor looked at it and says, oh, yeah, you need an x-ray. It's like, no shit, thank you. I wish I'd have gone to med school. I didn't know that. Oh, wait a minute, I did know that. So this guy goes ahead and just writes out like on a prescription form for an x-ray. So take that up there. They'll get you taken care of right away. I go up there, give them the paper, and then they would give me the x-ray. And of course, the foot was crushed up in, multiple pieces. So they couldn't even assess the x-ray there. I could. I've had so many x-rays on so many parts of my body over my lifetime from numerous accidents. I can read an x-ray as good as most of these doctors. So I look at this x-ray and it's like, oh no, look at this. Well, first of all, they wouldn't even give me the x-ray. Now, how does that work? How do you figure? I go in, I'm the customer, right? And I'm paying for this x-ray. They wouldn't even give it to me. Oh, we have to send that out for assessment. They email it to India, and they've got some guy over there that's probably making about $12,000 a year, and he does the assessment of the x-ray and sends a report back. So he sends a report back. They found 9 breaks. But it just so happened that I knew the radiology guy, the guy that did my x-ray. I knew him. He said, you can't tell anybody I did this. He said, I put it all on disc for you, but don't show it to anybody. He said, it could be my job. So I go home and I pop the CD in. And there was 14 breaks, 14 clear breaks. There was a floating chip in there the size of a dime. The floating chip was so big that anybody, whether you knew x-ray or not, could see it. The guy over there in India that assessed the x-ray, he didn't even put it in the report. He never even mentioned the chip. There were 5 breaks. I don't know which 5. There were 5 breaks in there they missed because there was 14 total, plus the chip, and they only found 9 of them. That's what they're paying for when they ship that overseas, so that they save money. That's another way the customer gets ripped off. Low quality, they charge you the high price like an American was doing it here, except they're getting it done at a discount overseas. And the hospital keeps the difference in the cut. That's another way you're getting ripped off, and there's no way to see this unless you know what the hell is going on. Right away, my first reaction is, no, I've got 14. I couldn't do that because I wasn't supposed to have seen it yet. So I go back in and they decide and they start telling me about all these surgeries I've got to have. They want me to go see an expert then, right? They're the hospital. Aren't they experts? Don't they have an expert? Can't they get an expert in there? No, they've got to send me somewhere else. This is what I mean, how they feed each other. First of all, the appointment that they made me go get instead of getting an x-ray, I got charged for a $225 office visit for that. And then I had a $55 administrative fee. And then there was another, I forget what kind of account service charge. It was like $35. It cost over $300 for me to go down there and get that paper from him to turn around and send me right back. Now, they could have called him. They could have said, yeah, his foot's crushed. No, see what I mean? This is how they feed you through the system. They send the work back and forth so everybody gets a cut of it because they know you've got insurance. Everybody gets a cut of it. And this is just one example. They always send you off to their friends, their cohorts, cronies, brothers in crime. The system is structured to squeeze the last dime out of everybody that walks through the door, everybody that's cursed into the need of their services. It's just structured that way. I know there's going to be people give excuses. Well, they have to do that for legal protection. Okay, here we go again. We're right back to the damn lawyers, aren't we? All right, if we've got problems that are following up the system because of the legal problems, then fix that. That is the problem that needs to be fixed. It's not an excuse to be used permanently, okay? There are problems in this system, and we get nothing but excuses and government throwing more money at it. Come on, this is not the way you handle these things. This whole medical industry needs to be reined in and revamped. And the problem is, nobody has the heart and soul to do it. We have no politicians that are really telling the truth about this. You know the insurance costs too much. I know the insurance costs too much. You know the doctors send you around. They don't give a damn about your time or your schedule because they're trying to book 10 hours of work in an 8-hour day, right? Half the time, it's not even the doctor doing it. I've had so many bad experiences in hospitals after accidents where it was just plain theft. The first time this happened to me, I'd had an injury to my back. I'd had 3 ribs broken right next to my spine. And my spleen was ruptured. So I got to go in the hospital, but it's on workman's comp, right? They know everything is covered regardless. So I'm getting like every test in the damn book, and you know, they drug you up, and then they start telling you things and dragging you around the hospital. Nobody ever asks questions, but I'm a lousy patient because I've been through this way too many times. They wake me up the second morning. They wake me up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to tell me I've got a 5:30 test. They take me down to the bowels of the hospital, down the elevator. Well, I start coming to my senses, and I said, now what test is this? I've already had every test. And she said, well, this is for your gastrointestinal tract. I said, my gastro tract? I've got broken ribs and a ruptured spleen. Why do they have to check my gas? She says, well, Dr. So-and-so, I can't remember his name now. He looked at it, and he thought it was important that you get this test. And I'm thinking, I didn't see this doctor. Then it hit me. Hell, he's just wanting bill for the test. I said, you know what? I said, take me back to my room. She says, I can't. She says, you've got to have this test. I said, no, I'm the customer here. I don't got to have this test. Take me back to my room. I said, I'm really getting ready to walk out of here. So she takes me back to the room. And I told her, I said, I don't blame you. I know you got the order. I said, but if the doctor has a problem, you send him in. About 9 o'clock in the morning, this guy that I'd never seen before, that pudgy-looking doctor, comes in, and he wasn't happy. And he had a clipboard. You know, you got a little roller table that goes over the top of your bed. He slams his clipboard down and says, so, are you Fred? And it's like, yes, sir, I am. And I'm thinking, okay, this is the guy. He said, excuse me, where did you get your medical degree? I said, I don't know. Who taught you how to be a damn thief? I was pissed. I didn't hire this guy. Who the hell is he to come in acting like I owe him something? He said, excuse me. He says, I saw your charts. He says, and you definitely need these tests. Trust me. He said, there's things that can happen on your inside. I said, no, I'll tell you what happened. You come in and you scanned those damn charts, and you saw that it was workman's comp, and you thought, okay, what kind of test, since I'm the gastro doctor, I can schedule a test for this guy. I said, you weren't even there when it was time to take the test. You were going to get paid for it. I said, what do? Assess the results knowing damn well that nothing is wrong? Boy, the guy started getting red, and he started getting mad, and I just made him get the hell out of my room. I told him, I said, look, I'm not your client. I'm not your patient. Get the hell out of my room. I'm paying for this. Actually, workman's comp. The nurses could not believe it. All of them, they were talking in hushed tones, but all of them stopped by. There were nurses that weren't even my nurses telling me, we've never seen that before. Isn't it scary that no one's ever seen that before? Why is a hospital the only business that people go into knowing they're racking up a huge bill where they don't negotiate the bill? They accept whatever they're told. That's like going into a car dealership and letting them pick out the car for you and telling you what features you need. What other industry does this happen in where the customer goes in and is just at the mercy of whatever the experts tell them? This is crazy. This is absurd. This has to stop. But people have got to care about it. All I'm hearing about is we need cheaper insurance. No, the insurance is high because the damn bills are high. You go to these hospitals, and they aren't just hospitals like they were when I was a kid. We had nice hospitals. We were comfortable. The first few times I had accidents, had to go to the hospital, it wasn't these palaces. Even some of the country hospitals, they were basically looked like half of an old school. But I got fixed up, didn't I? Yes, I did. Now you go to these hospitals, they got $10,000 flower pots sitting all over the place, 5 foot across. Everything's all manicured. Sure, that looks real nice. That doesn't heal you. They're building these palaces because it's like, we got all this extra cash floating around. There is so much extra cash floating around the entire industry. You go down the hallways and they've got art along the hallways. These things are palaces. We don't need palatial hospitals. When I'm laying in my bed, all I want to see is a TV, right? That's the only thing. I don't give a rat's ass how many different diners they have downstairs. They don't need to build these places into palaces. But it does show that money is no object. That's what you're really seeing when you pull in these hospitals and you see all this stuff. It's because money is no object. Everybody oh, we're all heroes. Well, so are the truck drivers that haul your food. You want to starve dead? Everybody isn't a damn hero, okay? You choose to do a job you're getting paid for, that doesn't make you a hero. Risking your life to save the life of another, that's a hero. The rest of it is just people doing their damn jobs, okay? I'm getting tired of this. People worship these doctors, these people in the medical profession. I've had a lot of nurses that I would trust a lot more than a doctor. Some of the nurses are just good. They got into it because they care. They didn't get into it to get rich. They got into it because they care and they learned the trade. You know, whatever industry you're in, I don't care. 85% of the people aren't going to be that much good. No matter what you're doing. Look at the NFL. How many names can you name of all the players? Look at Congress. We got 535 people in Congress. How many names can you name? There's a few of them that are the stars. There's a few that know what the hell is going on. Most of them do not. It's the same in the medical industry. You've got people that go in there and they do whatever a doctor tells them. That's one of the reasons there's so many people on these damn drugs. There's more Americans on drugs because our hospital system, our medical system in America is not designed to create cures. It's designed to create patients. This is well known. It's been well documented. People have known this for years now. I had a girlfriend that she had a fall, broke her wrist and her little pinky, right? Of course, she went to the ER right away. Goes in the hospital, gets treated. They put a cast on it, temporary cast. I get the phone call that she's had the injury. And at the time, I'm about 1,500 miles away. So I fly back there. She'd already gone to the hospital. She told me that they had her scheduled. About 5 or 6 days later, she was supposed to go in and see an orthopedic surgeon. It was as fast as they could get her in there. I'm thinking, uh-oh, orthopedic surgeon. What's he going to do? He's going to want to operate. Of course he wants to. My dad had a saying, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Of course an orthopedic surgeon is going to want to operate. That's what they do. That's how they make their money. Why did the hospital even send her there? I wanted to see these x-rays for myself. I made sure I got out there before she had to go to that surgeon. I wanted to be there. Well, here we are. We're at the appointment for the orthopedic surgeon. This little slick kind of reminded me of Joel Osteen. He comes walking in all pleasant and polite, cheery. He's got the x-rays and he hangs them up there and he starts pointing out where the breaks are. Why it's so important, she's got to have a couple pins and a plate in her wrist. And then that pinky, the broken pinky, well, it's lined up, but it's probably not going to stay that way because you don't heal as fast as you do when you're a kid. So they're going to have to put a pin in there or it's going to wind up getting crooked. And then you've got this finger and your hand's crippled and it's just a mess and you can't live like that. I'm looking at these x-rays. They are both very clean breaks. The wrist break was just, you could see the line where it was broken. Nothing was separated or out of alignment. It's a dream break. If you get a break, that's the kind you want. The pinky, same thing. There wasn't anything wrong. I think, uh-oh, here we go again. I'd seen this too many times before. I'm looking at this x-ray, and we go have a minute by ourselves, and I told her, you don't need any of that. The bone in your wrist is lined up perfect. The one in your little finger is just a regular break. It's going to heal fine. There is no reason. I said, just don't use that wrist until it heals. You're going to have a cast anyway. There's nothing wrong. You don't need the surgery. So she goes back and she tells the doctor, I decided I'm not getting that surgery on my wrist. I just don't want to chance it. I don't want to have to heal from a surgery because it doesn't look like it's that bad. Well, he didn't like it, but he had to take it because the patient refused. Patients have the right to refuse. You don't have to do every damn thing a doctor tells you. No, they don't always have your best interest at heart. I was proud of her. She stood strong. She told that doctor, no, I don't want to get that surgery on the wrist. And he really pushed for that one. You know, that's a big expensive one. And then that little pinky surgery, that's just a little icing on the cake. But the money, that was in the wrist surgery. She told him no. He tried to talk her into it, and she just politely, nope, nope, I really don't want to get it. So she didn't have to get it. She healed perfectly. And what was funny about it was after she refused the wrist surgery, he never even mentioned the pinky that just had to have a pin too. Never even brought it up. He wanted that wrist surgery. He forgot about the change he was going to make on the side with that pinky that just could not heal properly, would cripple her hand if she didn't get it. He never even thought about it again. He just figured, well, since I've got the hand knocked out, you know, I can knock off some easy cash here. Nope, he forgot all about it. She healed like a dream. She had no trouble with it since. Without that expensive surgery getting billed to her insurance after she had to go through it and heal from the incision, wasn't even necessary. Never was. The hospital should have never sent her because those breaks were clean breaks. The people at the hospital knew it. They sent her to this guy because they feed the system. They feed each other. They all work together to charge your insurance more. This is why insurance costs so much. You're getting so much treatment you do not need because they pass you around like a dinner plate and they all feast off of you because insurance pays. This is why insurance costs so much. The bills are way too high for a lot of crap we don't even need, and they overcharge for the stuff we do need. They have their finances at heart. They want to bill all the hours of a day. And it's like that doctor that wanted to give me the test, the gastro test, because I was on workman's comp. He wasn't even going to be there. Well, I had a friend whose wife worked in administration at that hospital. She checked that test that doctor wanted to give me in the basement at 5:30 in the morning. It was a $1,200 test because they knew they could ding my insurance. This happens constantly, all day long, in every hospital in the country. Every doctor's office. These people rob us. They give us tests we don't need. They put us on drugs we don't need. They rob us. Why is that so hard to understand? Fix the problems that are in the system. Don't worry about how we're going to pay for it. It's like, oh, the costs keep going up. We better figure out a way to get them more money. No, we got to figure out a way to get them more honest. That is what the problem is. We're all being robbed. We're not slaves to the dictates of a doctor. There is no other industry where you say, okay, go ahead. I'm here. Tell me how much I have to pay you. I've got no say in this. I will not negotiate. I won't question what you do. Just send me the bill. Send me the bill. Make it as big as you want, and I'll find a way to pay it. That's a license to steal. No wonder the industry's crooked. Here's something else you got to consider that I've never heard anybody talk about. We know it's an extremely lucrative industry, right? So why don't these rich guys get together and start some new hospitals, huh? Look around at the hospitals you've got. Every time they open up a new one, it's a branch off another one, right? There aren't big private hospitals getting built. You don't have the Jeff Bezos, the Mark Zuckerberg hospital chain, right? No, the people start restaurants, Amazon, but no, they stay the hell out of the healthcare industry because there are so many of them tied to churches. It's the Sisters of Mercy Hospital. It's the Lutheran Hospital. You know what I mean? The Methodist Hospital, they're all tied to churches because that's a 501c3 nonprofit. They get tax breaks a private hospital couldn't compete with. They're providing a community service is how they pass it off, right? But the problem is these church hospitals, they'll buy the block of ground next to it. And then they'll say, we're going to build senior housing. There's the seniors are close to their care. Now you've got them building 20-story apartment buildings for seniors, and they're competing with private landlords, right? They're competing with regular businesses that have to pay taxes, and the church does it, and they get away with it. So now you've got them competing tax-free, and there's all of that tax money coming out of the community because they don't have to pay it, right? So that makes the taxes go up on everyone else because they've got to pay for what the hospitals are getting out of. No one ever stops and thinks about why don't they start more private hospitals? They'll open up a mall, a sprawling mall that covers, a square mile on the edge of town. Big fancy stores, all the fancy landscaping, and they can't build a new hospital. That's because you can't compete with the people that are getting the 501c3. So they're already getting the greatest tax breaks a business can hope for. Every time you go in, how often do they tell you, oh, you've got to go see this expert? They all feed each other. They make partnerships. They make buddies with these guys. They go out to dinner together. Don't you see that? These people are friends. It's like if you came to me and wanted me to do some electrical work in your house, and I said, yeah, sure, but first of all, you better go down the road and talk to the carpenter and see what he thinks about it. Maybe we're going to have to tear out a wall. See how ridiculous it is? They send you to get tests you don't even need. They overcharge you for this stuff. The doctor gets paid for these tests, like that $1,200 fee that I was supposed to get for that test I didn't need. And that's just one example. I've had this happen countless times. I walk in there expecting this, and I start telling them no the minute I get there. And I've been healed from everything I've ever had. I'm on no prescriptions. I don't take any pills because when they tried to put me on them, they tried to put me on high blood pressure medicine once, 20 years ago, right? I'd had an accident. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. I was really hurt bad. They take my blood pressure, and it's like 140 over something. The doctor says I'm getting ready to leave after I'm getting all cured up from everything else. The doctor says, well, hey, he says, we found out your blood pressure's high. He said, you're at the lower thresholds now of high blood pressure. You're getting older, so we're going to put you on these blood pressure meds. It's like, oh, crap. All right, I got old relatives on it. So I went ahead and took it. Like I say, this is 20 years ago. Anyway, I go home and I take the first two pills like I'm supposed to. And they got a little paper folded up inside the bottle, and you unroll this thing, and it comes out about the size of a movie theater poster, small print. And they've got all the side effects in there. I mean, it's horrible. All of these side effects. I'm reading through these things, and it's like, oh my gosh, all of these things are worse than high blood pressure. Why would I take these pills? Because these things are even worse. And I'm reading around, it's like, my God, but I get to thinking, well, at that time, I was smoking a pack and a half of cigarettes a day. And this was in the morning when I'd been hurt, when my blood pressure was high. I used to drink 1 or 2 quarts of jet black coffee every morning. Of course, my heart rate was up. It was supposed to be. That's why I drank that crap. But the doctor never asked me about any of that. He didn't ask me a question about my lifestyle, my diet, my habits. But I'd drink that coffee till about noon, and then I'd switch to Mountain Dew, and I'd just caffeine up all day, right? Of course, my blood pressure was high. So I just cut out the Mountain Dew. I just quit drinking it. I just don't drink it. If I want to drink something, I drink ice water or Gatorade. Anyway, I cut my coffee by half in the morning, cut the cigarette. All of a sudden, 20 years later, I still got the same kind of blood pressure I had in my early 20s. I'm around 120, 125 over 70s, mid 70s. My blood pressure is fine. I didn't need the damn pills, but they would have put me on them for life. And the guy never asked me a question about my lifestyle, and I didn't need his damn pills. Well, I've got friends that have taken these different types of pills, and then you start having side effects. So they give you a different pill for the side effects. 10 years later, you're on 6 prescriptions, and you probably didn't need the first one. We got to get this under control, my friends, because it isn't, the problem is not the fact that we've got to have a better way to pay for the insurance because it's escalating. It's so expensive now. The problem is it's too damn expensive, and a lot of the problem is because of theft, overcharging, padding bills, helping out their friends, shipping everybody around so all their friends in the industry all get their cut at the most opportune moment, and the customers, the patients, just play right along with it. It's a license to steal. The theft has got to stop. We're being robbed. We are being robbed every time we go to the damn doctors, okay? Start having that attitude when you go in. Ask questions. Find out if you really need something. Sometimes it's not enough to get a second opinion. I'm going to tell you something, too, about getting a second opinion. Never tell them what the first one said. I've made that mistake. I've gone to get a second opinion, and I made the mistake of telling them, oh, well, if Dr. Ogletree told you that over at Lutheran Hospital, yep, that looks right to me. Okay. Yeah, but we'll treat you here. I made that mistake. Well, I went to 3 doctors one morning because I realized I'd blown it and made that mistake. The third doctor told me, nope, you're fine. You got a pulled muscle. It's going to be this, and this. Drew me a little picture of the muscle. Told me to go home, keep my leg elevated. Boom. There wasn't anything wrong. First 2 doctors wanted to operate on my leg. I'd had an accident, of course. Been run into with a forklift. First 2 wanted to operate on my leg. Nope. Never tell them what the first doctor said if you get a second opinion. Never just do everything they tell you without asking questions. Never take every test they order. Never get every surgery they order. When I was a kid, even 20 years ago, they didn't have near as much hardware installed in people as they do now because they've got so many clinics, so many of these doctors that will put the pins and the plates and stuff in you. There's a lot of people walking around with pins and plates now. I've had over 60 broken bones. I've got some things that aren't shaped the way I wish they still were, but I don't have any metal in me. They've tried a couple of times. I just flat refuse. And I'm getting along fine. I split my own firewood by hand, okay? You don't have to do everything a doctor tells you. Just advocate for yourself. Be a responsible patient. Use your own due diligence. It's your money after all. Because every time you let them get away with robbing you, it drives off the cost of the insurance because the fact the insurance company has to pay more to straighten crap like that out. We got to get this right, my friends. And if we do, then maybe God will continue to bless this great country of ours. Thanks for listening.